Yeah, so Wiktoria is a software engineer, a writer, and a YouTuber. She has been building apps for nearly a decade now. She has organized over 30 workshops for Webmuses, a community she co-founded in 2012. She's a RailsGirls mentor. Her interests focus on creativity, art, and cybersecurity. And we're really excited to have her here today to share her learnings. Over to you, Wiktoria.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for the intro, Rachel. Let me share my screen. Does everyone see it? I hope so. I cannot see the chat. So if someone could shout, that would be perfect. Okay.
Maybe just one thing. Sorry, I forgot to say. So with Q&A, feel free to use the chat for any questions that come up throughout, and otherwise we'll really push that to the end. So feel free to use the chat as well. Over to you.
Okay, so welcome to my, that was a very lame beginning, sorry for that. Before I start the presentation for Reels, let me just apologize to you. I'm a bit sick, so it may happen that my voice will just stop in the middle of it. If it happens, if I speak too quietly, please just shout and let me know. I cannot see the chat, so please unmute yourself and let me know. Yeah, and I will just try to do my best today, okay? So let's start. So where do I come from? This is me, 10 years old. A girl fascinated with computers. I just love learning about how they're built. Not only that, I am building computers with my brother, who's 6 years older than me. So he has much bigger knowledge about computers, and we spend hours and hours in his room, like figuring out how to connect cables. I just love it. I consume every computer-related magazine that we can find. This is 1999 in this picture. So we don't have internet. We don't really have like much knowledge, but we have huge enthusiasm. So one day, my brother comes to my room and he's like, here, there is, he hands me a magazine, and he says like, there is a programming tutorial in it. You could learn how to code. And I'm just so excited. This is Turbo Pascal. This screenshot looks much more fancy than the actual thing that I could see, because the monitor we had was black and white. So no fancy blue and no fancy yellow for me, but it didn't stop me. I was just so fascinating about creating infinite loops that would print infinite amount of numbers on my screen, to the point where I had to, restart computer. But as I progress in these tutorials, because they come out every month, I, get stuck, because it becomes more and more challenging, more and more difficult. And I'm 12, and well, I don't know English. My first language is Polish. At school, I learned German. So this is just, the comments of Turbo Pascal to me are just very, very weird strings that I cannot make sense of. But meanwhile, I'm in the 6th grade. So we have this new exciting subject at school called informatics. And our teacher, okay, so this is a very fancy version of the computer class that we had. We had only 6 computers in our informatics class. So there were like 2 or 3 people per computer, but it was okay. We were learning how to click, how to use Windows. It was a little boring to me, but I was enthusiastic. It was computers. It was easy to me. So cool. And then the teacher says, look, the end of school year, the end of school is approaching. The last informatics class, we can do something fun. We can learn how to program. And when I hear that, oh my God, I'm so excited. This last week was just the longest week of my life, because I was so excited, anticipating for it to come. And when finally it happens, the teacher says, oh, you can do whatever you want. And everyone goes to like draw in paint, which I respect because I have a huge respect for artists and art. But I'm like, what about programming? So I find the courage to step up, to go to the teacher, and I'm like, well, we were supposed to learn how to code. What about it? And he says, oh, I forgot my floppy disk. I cannot show you how to code. But even if I had the floppy disk, yeah, this is 90s, floppy disks were the thing. Even if I had the floppy disk, I wouldn't, why would you learn how to code? Coding is not for girls. You should better go and read a book instead. My soul was absolutely crushed at this point. But to be completely honest with you, I did what he told me. So I went back home and I started reading books. And I stopped coding because I thought it was not a girly thing to do. And well, I wanted to be a girl. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to belong. So I stopped coding altogether. And 20 years later, here I am, a senior software engineer. The path from 10 years old to 33 would be another story. But yeah, I'm senior software engineer. I have a YouTube channel. I started writing a book for women in technology. So here I am. And after nearly a decade, I would like to share some things with you. I would like to share things I wish I knew, things I used to be completely wrong about, and things I regret. Apparently, I like being vulnerable in front of strangers. Let's see how it goes. So things I wish I knew about job postings. Job postings are rubbish. I'm very sorry to say that. If you are in tech for quite some time, you probably have had the statistics about from an internal Hewlett-Packard report that men apply for a job when they meet 60% of qualifications, and women when they meet 100% of qualifications. Not because they think that they couldn't do the job, but they are afraid of failing their recruitment process. The problem is that most of job posting is created in a very random process. So I've experienced it several times, so I can share it with you. So you're working, you're doing your stuff, and suddenly, everything okay? Someone is unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay. I guess it's just a random noise. Okay. So you're working, and then you get a message on Slack. What technologies do we use in our project? And you answer like, oh, and the message is from a person from recruitment team usually, and you answer, oh, we use Ruby on Rails, Postgres, we use React.js on front end, and we host it on AWS. And this is translated into a job posting with, how do they call it? Demonstrated experience in MySQL, for example. So most of the job descriptions, the requirement section, I mean, answers the question, what is our tech stack, and not who do we need. So I'm very passionate about this topic. I made a YouTube video about it, and the next is coming. So I will maybe, if you are interested about this topic, I'm happy to rant. But if you're a woman, don't read the requirements, just apply. I get to my previous jobs being underqualified, basically, and it didn't stop me being very successful at both jobs. So please, if you are looking for a new job, look at the company, look at the product or service, what they do. Do you like it? Look at the values. Is it something that inspires you? Is it something that you get passionate about? And then apply, but don't look into job posting. Just apply, honestly. The next thing I wish I knew before is discussions. So when I moved to Berlin 5 years ago, I moved to a team, I moved to an engineering team that was full of men, much more experienced than me. And we had those meetings called chapter meetings. In some companies, they're called guilds, but it's a group of engineers using the same technology. And we would meet every 2 weeks, and I would be in awe because these guys had 10, 12, 20 years of experience, and they would talk on the level of abstraction that was very difficult for me to understand. And my manager told me that, well, Wiktoria, I see that you're very quiet during the chapter meetings. I think you should contribute. And I wanted to contribute, but I didn't know how. And it was not that the guys were bad guys and they didn't want me to contribute. Absolutely not. They were rather inviting, but even if they asked me a question, I just didn't have an opinion. So I just asked my manager for time, and I listened and listened and listened to them. And I realized that they're talking about boring things. And boring skills is something I wish I had came up with earlier. Boring skills is the easiest way for you to gain expertise, confidence, and respect among other engineers. Boring skills are skills that are not necessarily coding, but they are around coding. For example, making coding easier. Here are the examples. Querying logs, usability of error messages, logging the right things, performance of something, optimizing database queries, best testing practices, custom matches for testing, secret management, environmental variables management, refactoring strategies, cron jobs, CI pipelines, API design, verbs and namespaces, how to store dates, regular expressions, feature flags, design patterns, security vulnerabilities, etc. These are boring skills. Of course, the actual list is much longer, but just an example. If you thought, when I was reading through, if you thought, oh, this is not boring, then probably this boring skill is for you. And now, as you discover that maybe there is a boring skill for you, what should you do? You should learn about it. You should maybe read some articles, practice. You should establish an opinion on a subject, and then you should advocate this idea, your opinion. A friend of mine, she was a junior engineer when she joined, and she became extremely passionate about querying Splunk logs and creating dashboards and reports. And no one could do it as well as she could. And this is an example of a boring skill. She then later go around different chapters, and she was showing people how to do it. And from this, she grew her confidence. Another friend of mine, it was actually incredible what she did. She looked at Sentry, the backtracker application we use, and she saw that for the Ruby services, we have hundreds of thousands of logs every month, and it's completely, like, the noise there was completely useless, you know, like it was like there is no manpower that is able to go through all of this and react when something happens. So what she did was actually genius. She would call a meeting every quarter where we would go through those errors, and she would create like bugs to fix, and we would discuss if this is still relevant to be logged. And after some time, it was a long project, but she got so passionate about it, and she grew so much in the leadership skills that she was able to run the whole chapter, that this effort to reduce the amount of this noise from hundreds of thousands a month to a couple thousand, you know, maybe a couple of hundred. I can't remember exactly the number, but it was incredible. And, you know, the company saved some money because of that. So it was also great. Again, boring skills, but very powerful. It helps you establish yourself as an expert. I, for example, when I joined security team, I got super passionate and about the CIA triad. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but I would be very happy to make a presentation about CIA triad and how you can use it. CIA, not the CIA, the agency, but confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and how you can use it to think about security across the whole organization. I mean, engineering organization. Again, I took this small idea and I ran it through all of the chapters, and I made it into like part of the process. So honestly, these boring skills will help you a lot in establishing yourself as an expert. Another thing, wow, I'm talking a lot. I'm looking at the time. So things I wish I knew about imposter syndrome. We are women who code, so I will not explain what imposter syndrome is, but I have a question. Do you remember this? And you can unmute and say yes or no.
No.
No. Okay, so this is 2010. This is Sheryl Sandberg giving her TED Talk about why we have so few women leaders. And this TED Talk went viral at the time, and in 2013, Sheryl Sandberg wrote a book called Lean In, Women, Work, and Will to Lead, which became a huge success and very popular. And I read it, of course. And in this book, like, you can have opinions about Sheryl Sandberg and Facebook, and I completely understand, but it was 2013. It was way before Cambridge Analytica, the elections, and all the other scandals, okay? So in this book, she, the person of a huge power, money, privilege, position, she wrote about imposter syndrome and her experience with this imposter syndrome, with this phenomenon. Sorry. To me, 10 years ago, it was mind-blowing that she was so open and so vulnerable about her experience. Excuse me. And of course, I realized I was completely shaken when I read it. I ain't gonna lie, because I felt that, wow, this is exactly what I experience sometimes at work. And after this talk and after her book, imposter syndrome become their topic. And now this is Google Trends. I'm not sure if this is the right, yeah, but yeah, I'm not sure how Google Trends exactly work. I need to check it out later. But anyway, imposter syndrome became the topic to mention when you talk about women, when you talk about women at work, and especially when you talk about women in technology. But what I've experienced and watched is that actually this imposter syndrome is being used to tell you, well, you feel insecure at work, something is wrong with you. You have imposter syndrome. You need to fix it. This is your problem. And you know what? I believe that. And for years, I've been searching for, a reason in me. Why am I sometimes why I feel so insecure? And I thought that, oh, maybe I have, low self-confidence. Maybe it's something wrong with me. Maybe, I don't know, I cannot explain myself good enough when I speak English, my foreign language for me, etc. So I was, really investing into like self-searching and finding the reason why do I feel so insecure? And then I moved to Berlin 5 years ago, and before in Poland, I would, jump around different companies. I would never stay too long. But here, when I started working for Contentful, I experienced something different, and something what really made me question the approach that I have to imposter syndrome. So what happened was that I realized that, or I noticed that I do feel imposter syndrome sometimes, and sometimes I don't. And so, and it doesn't necessarily aligns with how I feel outside of work. But so it's not that it's something really wrong with me. Like, it was so different, because in the same team, I could feel welcome, and after a month or two, I could feel a huge imposter syndrome. So it really didn't make sense anymore, And then a year ago, this article from Harvard Business Review went viral. Stop telling women they have imposter syndrome. And it is basically about how the environment influences how you feel, right? This should be something we know, we understand. But if you are like, if you're not listened to, if your ideas are ignored or stolen, or if you never can speak because there is no space for you, then imposter syndrome that comes up. It's not really your fault. And you need to think about your environment, how maybe your team works, how the interactions between your teammates are. And I wish I knew that before, because when I read this article, actually a few months ago, I realized that my imposter syndrome aligned with behaviors that made me uncomfortable. And I wish I didn't spend so much time searching for the reason in me, where the reason was outside of me, in the environment. So we like to, like the imposter syndrome, I don't think it will go away. And we like to, repeat it, and we talk about it, and we say imposter syndrome, but you should have growth mindset. But growth mindset will not help you if your team doesn't want you to succeed. Now, the second part of my presentation, I need to speak faster because I'm talking too much. So what I used to be wrong about, negotiations. I call it the art of negotiating with the right person. This is something, maybe this is completely unrelatable to you, I hope, but to me it's definitely relatable. I have a great quote for it. I used to negotiate with the wrong person all the time, me from 1989 till 2020. What happened was, the performance review cycle, and your manager tells you, you know what, we need goals. So I would go out of this meeting, and I would start thinking about goals. And the goal that would come to my mind more often than any other was, I want to lead a project. And then what would happen is that I would go around this goal over and over and over again, negotiating with myself as if I was negotiating with a manager. But the truth was, I was only negotiating with an imaginary manager, right? So from I want to lead a project, because do I deserve to lead a project? Maybe it's too vain from me to lead a project. Like, I don't have that much of experience as my colleagues in the team. Maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe I don't know enough. Maybe my English is not good enough. I would like to support a project lead. And this is something what I would come with my manager to, this is something what I would bring to my manager. I would like to support a project lead. And the manager, I had amazing manager back then. She would say, okay, so, but what does it mean? What does the support mean? And we would negotiate this goal, and we would end up with, you'll time box the meetings. So you make sure that the meetings are productive, concise, we have agenda, we don't discuss too much, we don't go over the time, as I will probably now, sorry for that. So instead of being the Beyonce of the project, I ended up being a clog of the project. I don't know if it needs any explanation. This sucked. So, as I said, it was still 2020. But at the end of 2020, I had another great manager, and she said, Wiktoria, you've been working for this company for so long. Choose another team. Do something different. Develop in a different topic. I said, okay. I looked around, and I told myself, I will not negotiate with myself. I will negotiate only with her. And I said, I want security team. I want 6 months trial period. And after that, if I don't like it, I have a right to come back to my team. And I want a new title. I want to be a security engineer. And she said yes. She just said yes to everything. Like, how annoying. So now I'm thinking, what could have been in the past if I was just honest, if I was just negotiating with the right person? By the way, I know that it sounds very, wow, like brave for me to say like, I want this, that, and but I was already at the time 2 years in therapy. So it was very well discussed with my therapist. So I was prepared, just to be honest. And what I regret, this is the last point of my presentation, and probably the toughest one. I regret not supporting women enough. And this is painful to say, especially in front of my laptop that that shows me that that we have 37 participants in this call. And look, I've organized over 30 workshops for women who want to join tech. I organize RailsGirls. I've been a mentor. I'm a YouTuber, like trying to share positivity and try to encourage women to join tech. I still regret not supporting women enough. And what I mean by that is that as much as we need those kind of safe spaces, safe spaces like this meeting today, and kudos to Lina and Rachel for creating this community. We need to treat each other as partners in professional settings, at our companies. And what I mean by that is, I wish I asked women for code review. Oh, sorry, this is messed up. I wish I assigned more requests for comments to other women. I wish I brainstormed system design with other women. I wish I pair program with women. I wish I recommended other women as experts, even on Slack. And I wish I engaged with my women colleagues around me more in this professional way. And I talked about it with another engineer who, like, she's brilliant. And she's told me, you know what, I'm afraid of supporting other women because I'm afraid that people will think that I support them because of the gender and not of the skills. And I empathize with her. And it kind of broke my heart. And I just listened to her explaining to me why she feels this way. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. And I think we should not be afraid of supporting each other. I think this is unfair that as an underrepresented group, we need to take care of other groups' feelings. And it also hit me that when it comes to promoting people of the same gender, men do it all the time. And they don't have a problem with that. And I like working with men. And it's not that I have like all men are bad or some. No, not at all. But I think like we can here get inspiration from men. And I would love to see tech in which women support other women at work and women create opportunities for each other at work. So to sum it up, please do not follow my path. Please ignore requirements in job postings. Please develop boring skills. Please don't trust your imposter syndrome. Please, please, please negotiate with the right person and work with women around you. Thank you. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Victoria. I think we can give a round of applause with, yes, either by doing this. I think there's also a way, exactly, I see some of them coming through now with the emojis too. Shall we stop the recording so we can move through to the Q&A? Because I think we're all going to have tons of questions here.